Combine. I'm Tatum Everett alongside NFL Network's analytics expert Cynthia Frelund. Nailed the title. No, analytics is a word that I think we use very often here at the Combine, but it's a word I think that's being used a lot more around the Vikings facility.
Yes.
Which is exciting. But right out of the gate, I wanted to ask you, knowing your background in numbers and knowing about probabilities, the probability of the Vikings' 13-win season and some of those games coming down to the one score, I mean, the probability of that happening must have been crazy.
It was crazy. It's hard to win one-score games. The good news is being in one-score games means that you are keeping it close. And remember, even the difference between the best team and the worst team can often come down to maybe one drive. So being in those games is really important, and it's shown you so much about like the depth of the team and how, I mean, I'm maybe the biggest Justin Jefferson stan that there is. So it really helps when you have a guy who can break a big play just at any moment that's that special.
How special is his ability to be on the better end or the good end of a contested catch like the one Kirk keeps throwing up for him down the field?
Yeah, so the interesting thing, like at the Combine, what we were talking about with Justin Jefferson, some people were like, who's the best receiver? We've had a really nice receiver class, past couple of years, in fact. But the reality is he's a really good route runner. So you increase your probability of catching contested catches or any catch if you're where your quarterback anticipates you being. So he puts it up in a spot where only, Justin can come down with it, and there we have a gritty.
Yeah, well, gritty. Love it. I know. And you, before you got up here, you mentioned that Brian Flores is an old friend of yours. He said he's going to do the older version of the gritty. Like, he has his own. He's, like, not showing anybody. Knowing your friendship, is it going to be weird? Like, what are we expecting?
Let's be very clear. Brian Flores is an athlete. He is hilarious. He's a lot of fun. Now, I don't know if we went to Boston College together. I will say he was much older than me. No, not really. He's my age away though. But the reality is he's a super fun guy. I don't know what the older version of the gritty looks like, but I'm sure I've seen it at BC, and maybe we were on spring break a couple of times. So maybe I saw it in Acapulco circa.
There you go. We don't need to mention the year, right?
Yeah, last year.
Last year. What did you expect? Like when that announcement was made, what did you think of the move?
Love it.
Yeah.
Number one, I love your head coach. He is a wonderful human being, and it's such a good fit because Brian Flores is a wonderful human being too. Like, awesome family man. Just some things like very excellent human beings who are great teachers, great humans, really good command of. See, a lot of anyone who's a head coach or a defensive coordinator, they know football, but being able to teach football is kind of what differentiates the good from the medium, right? And they're all really good once they get here, but who's really, really the top of the top? And that's what both of them can do so well.
Knowing what we know now about Kwesi, because as a GM, last year we weren't sure what to expect when it came to his draft decisions, free agency, or trading within, off season or in season. What are his tells? What has he shown that he uses numbers, like from an analytics perspective, has he used to his advantage?
The thing that I would say is he's very smart about, I wouldn't take what happened last year and say that's what's going to happen this year. I think what he does is he takes the available assets, players, so I say that meaning to be free agents or draft picks, and mixes them together for what's achievable for the Vikings, meaning you're not picking first, second, or third, which is a good thing, but at the end of the day, you're not getting, it's not like you're picking, right at the top. So you have to figure out where those spaces are, and also remember that this is a long game, not a short game. When we do fun drafts and mock drafts and stuff, like I do it for this year because that's how media works. But he's got to think about things not just for this year, next year, the other years, but like 10 years down the line. So I wouldn't look at it and say there's any one thing that he's doing that's like a strategy. Like you could say the Rams strategy is to really look at free agents, right? But that's not how this is, to me, shaking out, right? He's trying to do the best given the available assets, and I think that's what that asset mix is. You'll see him create the best return on investment for that. Lots of finance words.
I was going to say, I think return of investment is a really, really important thing to think about, though, with Kwesi, because of what he tried to turn last year's draft picks into. He got multiple picks back. Now the Vikings are heading into this draft with 4, potentially 5 picks. It doesn't seem like it seems like that's a small number. So how does he make the most out of that?
figuring out what the biggest needs are and what's available from. So your free agents, you're going to have to restructure some contracts. By the way, every team does that all of the time. And figuring out, okay, let's take a look at around this division. Because remember, winning your division is like, that's what you got to keep doing, right? If you're going to do it, just keep going. And especially with that guy, he might be leaving, hurt him. Maybe he's in a retreat. I don't know. But the reality is it's very achievable. But now it's going to be a little bit of a different type of, you're not playing the Titans with a Derrick Henry. You're playing in this division. So he'll look and see, okay, let's look at that corner position. Who's available in free agency? And then that's what the middle of the draft, like those Friday guys and early Saturday guys, like that is the meat and potatoes of your team. So getting those right is where I think he'll focus his time in it. That's my guess.
So he was on the podium yesterday, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, and he mentioned, and I love this when he was talking about the quarterback position in the current quarterback situation with the Vikings. He talked about called it a necessary and sufficient conditions in math to be successful, which of course is like nerdy talk, right?
Love it.
Necessary condition is a starter level quarterback above a certain threshold, and Kirk meets that threshold.
Yeah.
Moving forward, hearing, just a little bit of that soundbite, what do you think his thoughts are on that whole situation?
I think when I was listening to that and I was trying to take it in context of everything that's going on here, the reality is there's so many right now. It seems like this free agent quarterback market, and it just seems like everyone's playing like quarterback shuffle.
Yes.
I mean, I've never heard of the Derek Carr being at the combine talking to teams. That's wild. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I've never seen it.
It's usually like agents talking and not like humans, right? It's wild. So it just feels like it gives us this false perception that there's a lot of changes and that maybe you could, it's like when you're in college or you go to college, from high school and you're like, maybe there's a better boyfriend for me out there, right? I don't know, right? So it makes you think there's a lot more potential options. But the reality is if you have someone that can execute your system, and Kirk Cousins does that very well, then why would you be sitting here trying, figure out, you need to figure out corner. You need to, you do, right? You need to figure out, you always need to figure out O-line. Even if you have the Eagles O-line, which is the best O-line, you always need to figure out, focus on that, right?
Yeah.
If they think he needs to fall in this range and he falls in the range, look elsewhere. There's 53 people on a roster. That is a lot of work to do.
That's awesome. I mean, I feel like I could talk to you about this all day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Listen, good color.
Oh, I know.
I'm glad we match.
Well, we don't love this color, but it looks good in the off season, right? We don't wear this on game day.
No, this is you're at the combine. It's green. It's sporty.
There you go. I love that. Well, you can catch Cynthia on the NFL Network's live coverage of the Scouting Combine March 2nd through the 5th.